Welcome to the Get Smart with Money podcast. I'm your host, Dana Hernandez, financial planner and author of Get Smart with Money, Break Free from the Struggle, Build Wealth on Your Terms, and Rewrite Your Money Story. Here we talk about money, entrepreneurship, growth, and resilience, because financial freedom is about more than just numbers. Each week, you'll get practical strategies, inspiring stories, and the motivation you need to stress less about money and create more freedom in your life. Let's get smart with money together. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Get Smart with Money podcast. Today, we are here with a special guest. Her name is Mary Ann. She is a spending coach. She helps teach women how to become unshoppable. Welcome, Mary Ann.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here. Any excuse to talk about money is my kind of excuse.
Right on. Yeah, money is such an important topic. Let's go through your money journey and how it's been for you. Did you ever experience anything as a kid that may have made you want to spend or save or?
Definitely. I grew up in a family where money was always talked about, which is good. But as a result, I kind of was an over saver. So every coin, every dollar I got, I just put into savings, even birthday money. And, birthday money, Christmas money, it's meant to be spent. But I just felt more security putting it in my savings. And when I got married, I was in control of the finances, and it was like, holy cow, like, look at all this money we have. And I got married later, so we were both, working, and it was like, oh, I can like spend and do fun things. And so I went the total opposite way and became like a super spender. And then it was born out of necessity that I just needed to find a way to stop my spending, and I couldn't find a way to stop it. And so that's kind of what led me into this spending coach field, is out of necessity, because I needed to fix my spending, and I found a way that helped me and that isn't talked about.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
That's fair. That is why I became a financial planner as
Yep.
well. I didn't realize it at first, but the pieces came together over the last couple years, and I'm like, oh, this is why. Now I can help people not be in debt like me.
Yep. Save them the pain, the time, and the money. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, give them the knowledge that we skip out on in school because they do not tell us that.
Oh, they don't.
So how did you start your budgeting?
So like I was talking with you, I was kind of anti-budget for a time, because I gotten to a point where I just had my first kid, and I had postpartum depression really bad, and I started having chronic health issues, daily migraines, and it just went on for years. And that kind of started that urge to like get out and spend and feel better. And it turned into not a full-blown addiction, but it did. It turned into something that I was not in control of. And so when I dealt with when I would talk to my husband, he was very kind and understanding. And it's like, we need to do better with our spending. And I was like, I would immediately seize up. And it's like, no, like, I don't want to give this up. I've already given up so much. And I've guilted myself into doing a lot of things like my whole life. And I didn't want to guilt myself into giving up spending. And so I was like, no, a budget doesn't work. I've tried a budget and it doesn't work. And so that's when I started looking, instead of where my money should go with a budget, I started looking at where it was actually going. And so I looked at just my spending over a few months, and I saw all the spending I was doing, and it was ridiculous. I mean, it was like $1,000 a month that was being spent unintentionally. And it wasn't through big purchases. It was through a $20 Amazon purchase here and a $30 purchase at Ross, because if it would have been $100 or more, I would have been like, red flags. That's bad. That's too much. But over time, it adds up. And so that's when I thought, wow, I mean, if I just redirect this money to intentional spending, that's $1,000 we can put toward whatever we want and building the life that we want. And that's when it became empowering, where it was like, now I really do want to budget. But where my budget wasn't working was I was spending outside of my spending limits. I didn't know there was a limit with my spending because I didn't have a budget in place. And so I needed to fix my spending before I could help my budget and like make a budget work. So that's where I kind of come at it from a spending approach, where it's like people that struggle overspending, they think that a budget is going to automatically help them. And most of the time it does, but if it doesn't, when you're just still overspending, there's a psychological reason for why, and nobody talks about it. And so that's where I am to kind of help you understand and everyone understand that it's something like overeating if it's not overspending. It's whatever habit, your like favorite flavor of thing to do. It's whatever you like to do. It's just out of balance. And so I help you realize like what triggers that urge. It's within your power to control that. And once you redirect it, like the sky's the limit. You can fund the life you want, and it's really empowering. So that's where I kind of got on board with the budget, was when I realized so much of my spending is within my control. It's not that we're living paycheck to paycheck. It's that I'm spending outside those limits.
Yes, I love that. And spending, it can get really out of control really quick.
Really fast. Yep.
So what would you say to the person who knows they should be saving money, but they're like, why? Why would I be saving money? Like, I'm just going to spend it. I just want this thing anyway. Like, why, what would you say to that kind of person?
I would say, like, what is it? I would have them ask themselves, like, what is it they really want from their money? And a lot of times there's these two categories of wants. There's like the really expensive, like, I want to buy a new house. I want to buy a new car. I want to travel. There's these big expenses that we just automatically rule out because they're so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saving towards those, we just kind of buy little things here and there to kind of make up for those big, big things. And then there's these things called heartfelt desires, where it's like they may not be those big, expensive, lavish things, but they're things like, I want to be able to pick up my kids from school. I want to be able to have a date once a week with my husband. I want to, fun for me, it was I wanted to afford house cleaning services and meal delivery services because of my chronic health condition. Like that to me is a rich life. But I thought, no, I can't afford that. So I would ask them, like, what is their big dream for their money? And then, like, what is their smaller dream of, like, this would be amazing if I could afford this thing. And once you realize that that's within your reach, you won't want those little things because you need to compare it to what is achievable and what you actually want. Because I've done a lot of research and we're not good at determining the value of things. That's why with sales, they'll always have the full cost and then they'll have the sale cost. If we just see one price, well, we don't have anything to compare it to. Same with like ordering fast food. They had the large and the small. You go with large because it's the best value, but that's only because you're comparing it to something. So we have to compare it to what we want. And that's where it becomes a choice of I can have this or this. The problem is with credit cards, we don't see that transaction of I spent $10, it's gone. We just see I can buy both. I don't need to do either or. And we don't want that restriction. And so, and then like the next tip is like, well, okay, then like, where do I start? It's like, you've got to see that money that you're not spending and put it in a separate place so that you see it grow, because a lot of the times you don't spend, it goes back into the checking and it just gets lost with everything else. And then you're not motivated. It's like, well, the money's just being spent elsewhere. Then I'll just spend it on what I want. There's no correlation in our mind with I don't spend here, so I can spend here.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
One thing I'm going to be talking to my students, I guess, in my coaching course on is that I think that they should keep track for 30 to 60 days of what they're spending, like put the item down and how much it is. And then at the end of like 30 days, add it up.
Yep.
And see what you really are spending your money on, if it's something you need or if it's something that you don't need.
Yeah.
Like random subscriptions or tattoos. Like you don't need that. That tattoos, I've always had an envelope for tattoos that sometimes I'll stick like $5 in.
Yeah.
That's just something that's not a necessity, but I want it. So yeah, I'll save here a little bit of money. Like I'm pretty good with saving money that way. I always have been, especially if it's out of sight, out of mind, but I know it's there, of
Mhm.
course. But like I'm saving for an exercise bike.
Yeah.
That money, I don't, that's no touchy. I don't touch that money.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Well, I love that you're encouraging them to do that. And I actually break it down even more because tracking your spending within a budget can be very overwhelming because it's like I have to track every single thing. And that's like automatically, it can be a start-stop cycle. And so what I encourage people to do is track your spending habits. Now, it's different from tracking your spending because with tracking your spending, you're tracking where you go, how much you spend and maybe how much is left in your budget if you're doing like a budget total, or you just write where you go and how much you spent. So if you spent $200 at Target, it's like, okay, I spent $200 at Target. If you had a $250 budget, then you were under budget, which is great. But what it doesn't show is that part of that grocery budget was I bought a shirt, I bought a gift, I bought diapers, I bought all these little things. And some of them may have been necessities, but a lot of times it's impulse buys. It's things wrapped up in, oh, I want a candy bar. I deserve a candy bar. Oh, that's on sale. I'm going to get it. So it
Yeah.
doesn't catch those impulsive purchases. And that's what I have people start with, because once you start seeing those habits of what I tend to buy during my shopping trip, then you see, oh, wow, like this is where the money is going. It's not necessarily the groceries. It's what I'm buying within the grocery store. So
Hmm.
that's an important distinction I help people understand because then you start being aware of as you're putting an item into your cart versus just looking at it after the fact. If you're looking at it after the fact, you can't take back that candy bar that you ate, you can't take back
Yeah.
what you thought. You have to be conscious about stopping spending before it happens, and it starts with recognizing those impulsive purchases.
Yes, it does. And it's so easy to be impulsive. That's the whole
Yes.
thing around the check stand. That's why they put that stuff there.
That's why they put it there. And marketers, they understand why we buy better than we do. And so we have to empower ourselves with that power because, I mean, we're always going to be marketed to, we're always going to be sold to. So we need to take that power within ourselves because let's be honest, like, if you want something, you're going to find You can't like remove apps. You can't just not go to stores for the rest of your life. You just can't. We're being advertised to constantly. So you need
Yeah.
to get those skills within yourself so that you can control your money instead of it being controlled. Because trust me, the shops will tell you what you need to buy. You,
Yes.
you don't need to be inspired by what to buy.
Yes. And for those listeners who don't understand or just don't know in general that colors pull us into,
Yep,
like McDonald's is red and yellow for a reason because it makes you hungry.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy how they use colors for different emotions and feelings like that, but it goes along with marketing, definitely.
Yep, it
And
does.
it's scary.
It is.
Like a
It is.
subconscious thing.
It is.
How long have you been doing this?
Good question. So this idea came to me like 4 years ago. It was like spend less, save more. I wanted to empower women who were working or going to a stay-at-home mom position where I was, where it was like I didn't want to have to go back to work and I wanted to be able to afford to stay home. And so I started taking control of the finances, but then I couldn't budget. And so that's where it kind of started evolving over time. And then I started having really bad health issues. So it's kind of been up and down. The health issues caused the problem and like my unmet needs. It just was this whole like snowball. And so it caused me to start overspending. So that's been my journey like this last 4 years, trying to find answers. And like I said, I was born out of necessity where I figured this out. So I've started like the spending coach emphasis, like it's been probably 4 to 6 months. So it's really been more recent that I've just been developing my idea, my concept, my course that I'm launching. So yeah, to answer your question, it's kind of been a work in progress. And now that I've like finalized and fine-tuned what I do, then it's like now I want to make this replicable so that like anyone can do it, not just me and not just my friends.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah,
And I love that. There's not enough people talking about our emotions behind money and why we feel how we do when we like because it's you have an emotional connection to money. It's an energy.
it
There's
is.
unhappy money and there's happy money. So unhappy money is like spending money on bills. That's not fun. But
Right.
happy money is like going to get ice cream or something like that. So going on
Right.
vacation.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's definitely an energy and there's also a reason why we do it because, and that's what bothered me. It was like I would read these books and they would go into the dopamine and like how we seek dopamine. And then it's like, oh, it's just getting good. And then they jump right into budgeting. It's like, wait, there's a lot that happens. Like, like you're missing the good part. And that's why, like, what fascinates me is that we all have basic needs that we need to survive and like reach our fullest potential. And those needs used to be food, water, shelter, and human relations. Well, in hunter-gatherer days, that was a life or death need. Now we don't have those needs, but our brain still reacts to those unmet needs as if it's a life or death thing. And so we don't feel a need is being met. Our first signal is there's an emotion. Our brain registers an emotion. And what that is supposed to do is like fear, it promotes you to look at what you're scared of and react to it. But what we've learned to do with society, and especially with these digital devices, we just escape that emotion and go right to our phone. We just escape that emotion and go out shopping or drinking or whatever it is. So we're not
Mhm.
taught how to deal with that emotion and figure out what is not being met. We just decide I'm unhappy, I feel horrible, I want to feel better. And so it's not that our brain is not working, it's not that we're not seeking a bad thing, it's just seeking resolution. And the brain is like, I'm going to do the least amount possible. So if it's a choice between like figuring out my life problems and feeling out why I feel so horrible or going shopping, what do you think it's going to choose? Like it's going to choose shopping. That's the
Yeah.
biggest dopamine hit. And so that's why it felt like such a need and it feels like such a need at the time. And that's when you can justify anything. That's when the want and need line becomes very blurred. It's like, well, I need food, but I really want to go to like Rotigios, It
Yeah.
that line becomes very blurred and we can very quickly jump into justifying why we need it. And then it's like all logic goes out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can only budget so much
Oh
too.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Well, and like
oh,
budgeting happens on paper and it's like you
mm-hmm.
don't spend on paper. Like you're out in the real world, you have emotions, you have complex things happening and it's like forget the budget. That's the last thing on your mind. And so that's where it's like that missing link is harnessing that power of like how to make your budget work is by changing these habits. And you have whatever freedom you want. You can do whatever, however much or little you want, but it's your choice. And that's where I think it becomes empowering. It's not restricting. It's I can actually afford the life I want if I just make these small changes.
So self-sabotage is a real thing. It's important to understand your family's financial past because it impacts your future.
Yeah.
So just witnessing things that's happened in your past or things that have happened to you in a relationship, or things that have been done to you, having to do with money, like somebody not paying you back or something like that, that can really trigger a self-sabotaging kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are normally people, I feel like they are spenders after some sort of traumatic thing
Mm-hmm.
because there is that dopamine hit
Mm-hmm.
and it makes them feel better only for that immediate moment.
Yep. And they are not recognizing what that deep-rooted thing triggered in them. So I have found, so my research into the spending types has evolved into there's a reason for why we buy, and it ties back to needs that are not being met. And we all remember like the food pyramid, but there's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Hmm.
And that is crucial in understanding why we do things. And it's because there's a need that's not being met. So at the foundation of that principle is you've got to have food, water, shelter, and human relations. That's the bottom. And then the second one is I'm putting these out of order, but another tier is uh, employment, funding, shelter, things like that. And then the next tier is human relations and self-respect. So those are like the tiers of what we need to thrive in our environment. And it's interesting. I remember when I was taught about those needs, it's like if the bottom tier isn't met, if that food, water, shelter, and human relations, if that isn't being met, you cannot achieve the other things. But actually, Maslow came back and said it can change depending on what the individual prioritizes. So if the individual prioritizes security, like financial security, over food, water, shelter, they're gonna like save, live in like a hole and just save because financial security is so much more important to them than food and water. And if there's someone that craves that like respect and admiration from people, there is that need that I will skimp on food, but I'm gonna buy an amazing wardrobe. So it's interesting that it came back and said that it can depend based on your needs and they're individual for everyone. And so with the person that has had this traumatic event, it's like somewhere in that hierarchy of needs, there was something that was triggered as like, I don't feel safe because I'm not getting this met. And so instead of figuring out what that need is that was like thwarted, we just jump to, I want to feel better. I want to get rid of this feeling.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, everybody's different already. So, of course, it's
Of
by the
course.
individual person.
Yes, I know. I know. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any books that you would recommend for somebody who is kind of wondering where to start or just learn about money?
Yes, absolutely. So I recommend that Brent Kessel, he talks about the wanting mind versus heartfelt desires. And that ties back to the recommendation of ask yourself like your big dreams for your money, the house, the car, whatever it is. And then those are usually have a high price tag. And then the heartfelt desires are things like picking your kids up from school. There's things like I want to be able to afford child care, house cleaning services, meal delivery services, whatever it is. Like you have an idea of what you want, but oftentimes we just right off the bat label it as that's too expensive. I want this, but it's too expensive. I can't afford it. But then we think like, oh, well, we're going to get this car someday. And it's like, well, think short term. Think, what do I want now? How can I live my rich life? And also Ramit Sethi, I really like his approach. A lot of people, we've kind of been, Dave Ramsey is great at like cutting down debt. And he's very good about, preaching that credit cards aren't for everyone. But where I think we lose sight in his teachings is that not everyone is in that situation where it's like, I have to get out of this mountain load of debt. Sometimes there's just people that they're making good money and have nothing to show for it. And he is very like against, you just skim, save. Ramit Sethi, he kind of has a balanced approach where it's like, I want you to spend lavishly in the areas that you love and then cut mercilessly in the areas that you don't. And that's kind of my approach. It's like spend less in the areas that you don't care about so you can spend more on the areas you do.
Yeah.
Like my whole money make under spend less, save more. But he does a really good job about in a budgeting perspective, explaining how you need to have all of these things filled. And then once that budget is filled and you're contributing, you can spend on whatever the heck you want. And that is, I feel like that's more appealing to our generation and our bookend tailored generations, because it's like we don't want to just save. And I think the old um the old idea of you spend your money after retirement. Like that was very big for like my parents. And I read a book that's like, why not live a life that you don't want to retire from? That's The Money Trap, I think. And that really opened my eyes, especially if you're someone that's like, I can't get myself to I'm a super saver. Like that's not a bad thing, but you're also not allowing yourself to enjoy your money. And so those would be the two books I recommend. Brent Kessel, It's Not About the Money, and or Meet Sethi, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he has a Netflix documentary that's actually really good. It's couples and individuals, and he kind of goes through his whole process. So if you like to binge Netflix, it's a great way to binge on changing your money for the better. So
Okay. Yeah. And there is a saying where you should build a life that you don't need a vacation from.
absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
Yep. Okay. I like those book suggestions. Those are good ones. So where can people find you online?
Yeah, so my blog is moneymakeunder.com, and that's actually where I have a free quiz. I was very overwhelmed with where to start when tracking my spending. And so I created a quiz that helps you identify your primary trigger or like why you buy. And it's very good at like narrowing in on all your spending and just finding what triggers you specifically to buy and overspend. And so that gives you an area to start with. And so you can start tracking that one area. And then I have a free group, free Facebook community, moneymakeunder.com. And then, yeah, if you want to work more one-on-one or group coaching, I have offers that for that too. So just take the quiz. It's the spending types quiz, and you'll get an email with your spending type, and it'll have the links on how to learn more.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna get all your links from you and put them in the description of the episode, but that was a really good chat.
Great. You too. Thanks so much.
Yeah, let me catch up with you really quick after, but thank you again for being here.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Please like, review, and subscribe to this podcast. And follow me on Instagram at dana.hernandez.agent, as well as checking out our new website, getsmartwithmoneypodcast.com.